Welcome to the ProfServ Traction Podcast, dedicated to exploring how professional services and technology businesses break through the ceiling. Here's your host, Steve Preda.
So good day, dear listeners. This is Steve Preda and the ProfServ Traction Podcast. And I have today with me Alec Broadfoot, who is the founder and CEO of VisionSpark, which is an executive search, hiring, training, and hiring assessment company in Ohio. And what's special about Alec's firm is that they focused primarily on serving companies that run on the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS. Alex graduated and got his MBA from Bowling Green State University in Ohio. So welcome to the show, Alec.
Oh, it's great to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me.
So you've been running this company, VisionSpark, for almost 10 years now. How did you become an entrepreneur? How did you get here? What's your journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was in college, and my major was international business and economics, and I thought I wanted to be an international business person. And I had an opportunity to get an MBA right after college. They offered me an assistantship, which meant my tuition was paid for. I had to work a couple hours a week for the school. And so I decided to continue writing my MBA. And during my MBA, they really were teaching us at the time how to be good corporate executives, a good corporate leader. And there was an optional Saturday program where they brought in 3 entrepreneurs and interviewed them. And I decided to go, and I was just so inspired by these entrepreneurs. And, getting to listen to their stories and how they can make a difference. And my dad had worked for corporate America, and I thought, well, maybe that was my journey, but not after this. And so I thought, you know what, someday I'm going to have my own business. And so I was 24 years old at the time, maybe. And I had an offer to work for Bank One here in Columbus. I had interned with them a couple of years. And so my plan was, I'll work for Bank One, 15, 20 years, I'll save a whole bunch of money, and I'll start a business. That's what I thought the plan was. And 2 years into working for Bank One, I had an opportunity, along with some friends, to buy a business. And I took the leap. The bank said, hey, if it doesn't work out, you can come back. And I thought, well, we didn't have kids at the time, and the risk was low. And I decided, and that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And that was 25 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So before VisionSpark, you ran some other companies?
Before VisionSpark, yeah. So I had, there's a company, it was in the publishing industry. So that's the one that I bought. It was all self-published reference books. And we got a little bit into, we had a CD-ROM program that we sold, and a web, now it's web-based. And then I had a business in the mid-2000s where we processed mail for all the big companies in Columbus, like Chase Mortgage and the big hospitals, and loved that business. And that's where the seeds were planted for VisionSpark. I met some great individuals then, and they planted some seeds about making sure you have the right people in the right seats, and hiring the right people, and good quality assessment tools. And so that was during that time, which was a super valuable time. And I sold my interest to my business partner at the time, and decided to do consulting. And I really had this passion of helping entrepreneurs with being more profitable and just having a stronger business. And what I was encountering, every consultant opportunity I had, was that there were people issues. And like all these entrepreneurs, like little lemmings walking off a cliff, making these bad people decisions. And so in 2011 or so, there was a friend at the time, and we were talking about this, and we said, hey, let's start a business where we can help entrepreneurs make great people decisions, whether it's hiring or having the right people in the right seats. So that's kind of my journey to VisionSpark. And so I love helping entrepreneurs overcome obstacles so they can reach their goals.
So how is VisionSpark different from other companies focused on executive search and assessment and training?
Right. It's like a it's a big sandbox, and there's lots of players in the sandbox. And so there are traditional executive search firms out there that are really good at what they do, and they're retainer based, and they focus on culture, and oftentimes they focus on much higher salaries. So the compensation for these positions would be significant. And then there are recruiters, which oftentimes, there's some really good recruiters out there, but a lot of them don't have great reputations. They're just, interested in pushing a resume. And there's some tactics they use that I would not use in my business. So that you have that, and then you have the assessment folks out there, and there's, everybody that sells assessments think their assessment's the best thing ever, and there's no other assessment better. And so at VisionSpark, we are focused on the small to mid-sized business that from their leadership positions to helping them find these great people to fit with their culture. We're also focused on helping them make the right people decisions. And a lot of that stemmed out of, initially we were just doing search, and our clients are like, hey, can you help me with this salesperson? Hey, I'm hiring an office manager. That assessment that you use, could I have a couple candidates take that assessment to see? And so, so our business has evolved to really strengthening the people component of our clients. Okay.
So for those listeners that don't understand this jargon, the people component, what does it mean?
Yeah. So, it's something that EOS coins, but all businesses, they're going to have some sort of component that involves people. So your employees and your managers, and making sure you have the right people in the right seats, as Jim Collins coined years ago. And so to have a great business, you got to have the great people doing the right things and being effective. And in fact, I know, Steve, this is interesting to you because of your work, but if you had two businesses and they were identical and they all had great financials and great structure, and they were blue ocean, and one had great leaders and great people and the other didn't, which would be worth more, right? And so it's almost impossible for companies to reach their goals without having the right people in the right seats.
Yeah, I'm rereading Beyond Entrepreneurship from Jim Collins, which is a book that's been around for, I think, over 35 years. And now he republished it, BE 2.0 title. And it's such a brilliant book. And actually, a lot of US ideas come from him. And what he talks about is that you have to first identify the right people before you even do your vision, your strategy. So this whole idea of get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and get the people in the right seats, is basically this idea of first you populate your company with great people, and then that's going to take care of most of the heavy lifting, and you can do the vision and the strategy and that stuff. So tell me a little bit about this idea of being focused on EOS-run companies. How did that come about, and why is it good for you? And is it even a big enough population for you to target?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we first started VisionSpark, we didn't hear of EOS. We just focused on small to mid-sized companies in the United States. And I was in a Vistage group, and for those that are listening that don't know what Vistage is, it's a peer group of CEOs. And so one of my friends in that group, his name's Alex Freitag. He transitioned his career to become an EOS implementer, and so we were talking one day, and he's like, Alec, you need to target what you do for companies running on EOS. So EOS, they often will recommend having an integrator, and that's someone to really run the business. So the visionary, the founder, the entrepreneur, the inventor can do what they do best. And he's like, there's a huge need. And that's number one, Alec. And number two is, you shared with me some of your frustrations that your clients don't have, the potential clients don't have any sense of wanting a great culture, or they don't talk about core values. And he was really speaking my language, because we were firing clients before we engaged with them, because they didn't value culture. They didn't have any core values. They just wanted to get a resume, in the position. And like, hey, I had this guy call me. It was a Tuesday afternoon. He's like, hey, do you do CFO searches? I'm like, yeah, we do CFO searches. And I said, well, tell me a little about your company. And he started telling me, I'm like, tell me about your culture. And he's like, I don't care about my freaking culture. I need a CFO, and I need him to be here by Friday. And if you can't do it, I'm not going to pay you. And I said, well, I'm not going to do it. We're not your firm. This is a process, and we know it wouldn't be a long-term fit. And he was just irritated with me that I wasn't taken as bait. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to work with you or for you, because one, it won't be fun. And number two, your culture probably stinks just based on how you're talking to me and treating me on the phone. So that's what had us shift maybe about 6 years ago into working with companies running on EOS.
So how do you find EOS run companies being different from other companies?
And I'm curious to learn more about some of these other operating systems that continue to evolve. But companies running on EOS, they really operate with core values, and core values and culture are important to them. Some of the tools they use, like the People Analyzer, are great tools. If you go to an EOS conference and you meet all the companies running on EOS there at the conference, they'll be some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And you're thinking, man, why are there so many nice people here? And it's really because they operate their business on core values, and they attract individuals that have their core values, and they repel individuals that don't. And so, we just like, hey, this is our tribe here. This is who we want to target our business to.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you brought up the People Analyzer, which is basically one of the staple tools of EOS, which both looks at whether the person is the right fit for the seat, whether they fit your core values, live your core values. And then the second is whether they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it, GWC, the seat that we put them in. And I've been wondering about this tool and how it fits with other assessment tools that you may use.
Yeah.
Is this kind of a simplification, or is it a completely synergistic approach to some of the assessment tools, and how does that work?
It is a simplification, and it is a great tool. Does it solve all the problems all the time? And I would respectfully say no. There are parts of it that are subjective, that really may hinder someone to make the right people decision. And so that's kind of where we really want to help. I was talking to a visionary client of mine. He was in the Midwest, and he's like, Alec, can you help me? I need to make some people decisions. And we just went through the People Analyzer, and he's torn apart, and he's feeling horrible about the whole thing. He knows he doesn't have the right people to right seats, and he knows it's not the team that's going to take him to the next level. And so, we came alongside him and helped him with those decisions with a little bit deeper dive, with some, the tool we use, it measures their mental aptitudes, which, measures their mental acuity and attention to detail. And then it measures personality dimensions, which which are behaviors that determine success. And so you can see, like, for example, I'll give two quick examples. Like if you had a controller who really lacked attention to detail, you could see that right away on the assessment tool. And obviously you wouldn't hire someone that if you knew that, but or let's say you wanted an executive assistant that's super organized. Well, you could see that right away in the assessment. So it's a really revealing tool that shows strengths and weaknesses. And so that comes alongside the people analyzer, and it fits super well with the Kolbe assessment, which is a really good assessment measuring instinct and drive. And so that's one of the tools that we use to help our clients make the right people decisions.
Okay, that's interesting. So basically you can use both. There are two levers that you can pull. You can solve kind of big picture, people analyzer, and then you can dig deeper by looking at their mental acuity and behavior and instinctual behaviors. That is cool. So I'd like to switch gears here a little bit, and I'd like to kind of zoom out and talk about how you built VisionSpark and your previous businesses. Did you use business management frameworks like EOS or other concepts when building your business, or was it just kind of intuitively trial and error?
Yeah. My company's run on EOS, and I say we miserably failed at self-implementing, and we have an implementer we've been working with the last year or so, and it's been a wonderful journey. But my other businesses didn't really run on any operating framework. We had, a vision statement, a mission statement. We had core values, but it wasn't really, it's kind of like the flavor of the month, and so, and then we put it on a bookshelf, and I really relied on some of the things I learned in school and the previous years of running other businesses to make correct decisions. But no, we didn't use any sort of management framework or operating system, anything like that.
So why did you start using EOS, and what is your experience?
Well, number one is we saw our clients really succeeding with EOS, and we just love learning about their success, and even prospective clients, we would ask them about their journey and how much EOS has meant to them and how they were able to achieve their goals. And and so it just became very appealing. And so we were a small company, we tried to self-implement. It was a struggle. I know there are companies that do a really good job of self-implementing, but having an implementer every 90 days, there with the pulse and making sure you hit your goals has made a world of difference.
So what were your challenges with self-implementing? Why is it hard?
Yeah. One, I think there was a lack of commitment, and there was a lot of change, and we didn't have someone say, hey, this is, first 90 days are going to be tough, but, here's where we're going to be in 90 days, and this is what we're going to accomplish. And, it was just, I think my team didn't see the commitment. Visionaries will often have shiny objects, and maybe they're wondering, hey, is this another shiny object? And once you have an implementer, it really says you're committed, and they're there 90 days later. Hey, did you get your rocks done or your goals or whatever? And, when you run, you have your L10s every week, and it's a rhythm, and it's a really neat way to run a business and to see tremendous growth in overcoming. And this year, I know for a lot of people, it's been super tough. And EOS was really a huge part of our success this year. And I call it success because we just crushed it the last half of the year, so yeah.
Okay. Is it just EOS that you work with, or there are other, operating systems or management blueprints, whatever you want to call them? There is Scaling Up, which is a big competitor. There's there is 3HAG, like BHAG, but for 3 years, 3HAG. is kind of a competing system. There are at least 5 or 6 others. Are you working with other companies that use different operating systems, or is just the US?
Yeah, not yet. We do have maybe anywhere between 10 to 20%, I would say 10 to 20% of our clients at any given time don't run in the US. We have a recurring client. They are a large company. They're, I think, $1 billion in sales, which is much larger than a lot of our other clients. And they are well beyond a framework like EOS. The other ones don't really have an operating system they use. I do know that scaling up is, I'm hearing more and more about them. I think, they came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so I'm curious, I'm curious. I'm really, wanting to learn more about these other operating systems. I do believe companies with an operating system will, I don't know what the research says, but my gut would tell me that they're increasingly more successful than companies that don't have an operating system.
So let's move on. Let's talk about why companies are succeeding and why are they failing, and specifically about hiring. What are the big mistakes that you see entrepreneurs commit in the area of hiring, and why do they come to you?
Yeah. So entrepreneurs, I'm one. And so I think I can speak with authority on the subject because I work with entrepreneurs where entrepreneurs are really good at understanding the needs of the market. What's the customer need? What's the gap in the marketplace? Why is this product going to work? Or why is this service? They're really good at that. And that same trait also makes them really bad at hiring. And so they tend not to be objective in hiring. So I would say some of the mistakes are they hire too quickly. They hire on emotion, and not just entrepreneurs, but most hiring managers will focus way too much on the individual's resume. And so that's a mistake they make. Not having a process, right? So companies have processes for everything, but do they have a process for hiring? Most likely the answer is no. And so, those are just some of the common mistakes. Not using an expert in the hiring process. Most entrepreneurs trust their taxes to themselves or to, TurboTax? Probably not. They are going to use a CPA that works with small businesses. They delegate that expertise out. And when it comes to hiring, I hear this all the time, I'm good at hiring. I'm a good judge of character. And I will gently push back at that. And I'll say, I'm just curious, looking at your last 10 hires, knowing what you know now, how many would you rehire? And oftentimes the answer is 2 or 3.
Wow.
Right. So if you think about it, is that really a 70 to 80% mistake? Maybe. And would you give your taxes to someone that had, 70% of your tax returns were errors? No. But when it comes to hiring, you tolerate that. And I did that research for a little bit. And then I was thinking I was onto something because I read a survey from Gallup, and Gallup, they do this extensive research, and they found that 82% of the time companies fail to choose the right manager. And I'm thinking, man, that kind of lines up to my little unscientific approach to do the research. But I think, recognizing that, hey, you know what, I'm not good at hiring and I'm going to delegate it to someone within my team that's better, or a third party. An assessment tool can really help make a better hiring decision. So, Steve, I know you're a numbers guy, and there's a study done by the University of Michigan years ago that said an interview by itself in terms of predicting a future success was only 14% effective.
Wow.
But if you add an assessment tool, a good quality assessment tool, and it wasn't clear as to what kind of an assessment tool, you actually triple those odds to 52%. So just interviewing and an assessment tool, you'll more than triple your success rate. So, assessment tools can play a huge part. Some other mistakes: hiring too quickly, hiring on emotion, hiring based on resume, which is, full of, I think, 48% of resumes have outright lies in them, and 100% of resumes have some sort of embellishment. So we don't want to focus on the resume. Yeah.
So that's fascinating. Tell me a little bit more about this process. So I understand you go from interview 14%, you can triple it with the assessment, 52%.
Yeah.
What other stuff can you do to increase that success ratio, and how high can you get it?
Yeah. So we've seen our clients double, triple, quadruple their success rate. So number one is to have a process. In that process, the very first step is critical, and that is to make sure you take time to identify the person, the position, what success looks like, the behaviors, traits, and values. That first step in developing a target is super important. So, I'm going to exaggerate something here, but, let's say, company XYZ needs a salesperson, and like, hey, we need a salesperson. And boom, Joe shares, hey, my friend's a salesperson. He's looking for a job. Okay, let's bring him in. And they hire him, and like, well, time out. You got to take time. Okay, what is this person going to do? What success looks like? What behavior, traits, and values do we want? That is super important. So there's an old proverb. Solomon said this, an employer who hires a fool is like an archer who shoots at random. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true in many cases, that we don't take time in developing a target, a bullseye, and we shoot and we miss. We're way off, and we hire, and and what's the cost us, Steve? Like it's at least 3 times their salary to make that bad decision.
Okay, so number 2 is develop the target.
Yeah.
What's number 3?
To interrogate the resume.
Mm-hmm.
So the resumes are full of lies and embellishments. So you want to interrogate the resume.
How do you do that?
Well, one thing we do, and there's a lot of things we do, but one thing is we look for gaps in the resume of where there may be periods of unemployment. The second thing we do is we'll ask them why they moved on from one position to the other. Mm-hmm. And if someone says, "Oh, I moved from here to here because it was a mutual decision," we'll say, "Well, what do you mean by mutual?" "Well, my employer sat down with me and said, 'Hey, you weren't meeting performance expectations, and it was time to move on.' And so you were fired." "Yeah, I was fired." So you want to interrogate the resume. That would be the second step. And the third would be to I'd recommend a phone interview with some structured questions. Mm-hmm. And we have research-based questions we use with the response guide, but just a phone interview. And then I would say you want to interview for their values, and interview for your core values would be super important. And then an assessment tool is recommended, and then a final interview with a couple other team members is important. So I neglected to say that target in the beginning that you develop, you want some help with that. You want some people on your team doing that, and then that same group of people would interview at the end and determine if we're close to that target or not. And most likely you're not going to get anyone that hits the bullseye in the head, but which individuals are closest, and we can eliminate those that are not even close. So that's kind of the process of what a successful process looks like. And that's, I'm proud of our success here at VisionSpark, is how we help clients, and that's the process we use.
So, we often talk with my clients about how hiring is like sales was in the 20th century. It's the most challenging piece of the business, because you can figure out how to market your business, how you generate leads, mm-hmm. and how do you, if you have a good product, how do you get the word out? But finding the right people you really have to go after them. People have a lot of options these days, good people, and it's really, really difficult to find them and to get them to be interested and so on. Do you find that this is also challenging for you guys to fill the top of the funnel with good candidates, or it's more the selection which is the challenging piece?
Yeah, and up until COVID, it was a challenge to find great people, and so we would have better success because of how we wrote the job posting and where we advertised. And we would have candidates that say, you know what, I was not even looking. I read your posting, or my friend told me about it, my husband told me about it, my wife told me about it. And I read it and I said, this is me, this is my job. And we would hear that day in and day out. So how that posting is written makes a world of difference. So increasing the funnel is super important. We have found that this year that there are more people out of work, unfortunately, but a lot of employers are doing what they can to retain their top talent. And so, some of our clients thinking, hey, I can get someone on sale, I can pay less money, but are you really getting an A player for your company? And are you really going to see the return on investment that you want, if you decide to offer a much lower salary? And so, that's always an interesting conversation with clients about their budget, what type of person they can afford. And for us, it doesn't matter what their budget is. We will work with their budget. Our fees don't change based on that. With companies that need a specialist, they need a civil engineer or an architect, it would behoove them to hire a recruiter that specializes in that industry, because those things are often much harder. But for general positions, like office positions and sales positions and management leadership positions, we haven't had difficulty with finding the right people in those seats because of our process and how we advertise and how we write the posting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what I'm hearing is that it's basically you have to be really good at articulating why a position is really attractive for a general audience, so that you get these people, they read the ad and say, oh, this is me, and I'm going to jump on board. How do you do that? And what are the levers that you can pull in order to touch people, maybe even emotionally, that they get interested in a position?
Yeah. Well, I'll share this. It's important to talk about why your company is a good place to work. Mm-hmm. So that needs to be in the posting. If you think about it, Google and Amazon and we have a BMW Financials here in Columbus, and they don't have trouble finding people because they have a great brand. They'll only hire a small percentage of their applicants. Like, I think it's harder to get into Google than it is to get into Harvard, right? I mean, they have that many applicants, but smaller companies that don't have that brand have to really make a compelling case as to why come work for you. And then, in my opinion, candidates do want to work for small and mid-sized companies. They just don't know they do. And they love it. They can be a bigger fish in a smaller pond and make a huge difference. And they don't have a lot of the bureaucracy and politics. And so you really need to make a compelling case. It's important to communicate the values in that posting too, that you're looking for. And so those are a couple things, without giving too much away, that companies can do. If the posting reads like any other posting out there, you're way off. You're not gonna find great talent. Most companies don't know how to write postings. If you read them, they're awful. You're looking for someone with a lot of qualifications. You have 75 job responsibilities. It doesn't say anything about the company, what you do. And so candidates feel like, man, I'm going to be a jack of all trades. I'm not going to be valued. I'm going to be a number. And I don't know how these job postings started and the format that's out there and why they started, but we all are mimicking something that doesn't work. And so you really need to change how you write the posting to attract the right people. And that's also the same thing that you use to select the right people.
So if I'm an entrepreneur, I run a small business, how do I become more attractive to employees, potential employees in general? What do I do with my company to make it more attractive?
Yeah. So number one is I would recommend investing in some branding, right? So we as employers, we will spend a good portion of our revenue. And when I've done some different speaking, I'll ask the room, I'll say, looking at your financials, what percentage of your budget do you spend on getting product in the door? So include your sales team in there. What are you paying them? Your marketing costs, and I'll hear things from 20%, 50%, 10%. And then I'll ask the next question. I'll say, okay, now what percentage of your budget is about bringing in quality candidates? And the answer is usually zero. There's nothing. And there are companies out there that their whole website has nothing to do with what they sell. It's all about attracting candidates. And so it actually helps them in twofold, because one is they get great candidates in because candidates are like, man, what a great website, what a great company. I want to work for that company. But also their customers, potential customers, are like, man, if they treat their employees that way, and if it's such a great place to work, that's who I want to do business with, right? And so, that's one thing is to invest in employer brand, and your network's super important. Hey, come work for my company. It's a great place to work. You can have an email signature saying, hey, talk to me about working at my company, or, ask me about our next hire, or, things like that. Having a good social media presence is good too. Just some of the things you're doing. And it doesn't have to be really formal social media. It could be like, hey, like we did this in the middle of COVID. We had a team lunch and we were all remote. And we had a client who's in the restaurant business. And so, we got burgers from their amazing restaurant, and I delivered them all via Grubhub or DoorDash or something like that. And I took a picture of all of us eating their burger, and my client loved it because he's like, this is great. It made my day. And then, we showed on social media that, hey, we're a great company and, are a fun place to work. And we actually had, our one employee right now, she's like, I saw that picture and I knew I wanted to work there because, man, if you do that in the middle of the pandemic, that says a lot about you. So just little things like that make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I have a client who does this kind of stuff all the time. And one of the things they did before the pandemic was that they got a mini zoo in their parking lot. And then they invited, all their employees and their families, and they were all, petting these goats and llamas and what have you.
That's great.
It just created a really fun atmosphere. It's basically, for years, people were talking about that kind of stuff. And it's obviously great fodder for social media. You can put it out there. You can make yourself, humanize yourself. It was a great one. So switching from the hiring topic to, and maybe that includes hiring as well, my next question, being an entrepreneur, what would you consider the three most important things for a visionary like you, who is maybe not mired in the day-to-day, you are a strategic person, what are the three most important things that you feel you have to focus, or any entrepreneur have to focus on, in order to make the most out of that visionary position?
Yeah. Number one, I would say, the who, not how concept is important. As entrepreneurs, we are, we're achievers. We work hard, and we're like, hey, we know that the result is later, the reward is later. So we'll put the work in, and we think, man, I could do it. And if we can think, not how I can do it, but who I can do it. And so there's a real good book by Dan Sullivan called Who, Not How.
It's behind you on the shelf.
It is on my shelf. And, you can even get the Kindle version. I think it's $1.50, but, I think for every minute you invest reading that book, you'll get 100 minutes of productivity later. So I think number one, understanding who, not how is really important. So If you have a project, think, man, how am I going to get this done? Think, oh, who can I delegate it to? Who do I know? Or do I need to hire someone to do this? Right. So I think that's important. Number two, the second skill, I would say, to really have good people skills. And you need to be, diplomatic and encouraging and a coach and calm in the storm. And I think that's super important. If you don't treat your employees well, you're not going to have a business. You're going to have high turnover, and it doesn't matter what kind of great product you have. And number three, I would say a good business acumen. So how can we market our products, and what are some other, where's blue ocean? Where's our niche? Where can we succeed? You're talking about Jim Collins and the hedgehog concept, right? What are we passionate about? What drives our economic engine? I forget the third one, but really having
be the best in the world at.
What can we be the best in the world at? Yeah, very good. And really having some strong business acumen, both on the sales and marketing side, but also on the financial side, right? So you got to be profitable. Without profit, you can't do any good. And really understanding that. So I would say those are the three most important things. And I could be persuaded if someone else thinks of three others, but those are my top three things.
No. I agree with you. And this who, not how, it's interesting. Strategic coach Dan Sullivan, who is one of the co-author of this book, and he has been teaching this concept in Strategic Coach for several years. And I've been a member of Strategic Coach, and intellectually I got it, but I think I didn't really viscerally get this up until fairly recently. I read the book as well, and it was on my shelf for a couple of weeks before I got to it. And I really got it, what it means. It has made a huge difference already for my business. I mean, I love to work. I don't have employees, but I have, 7 or 8 people on Upwork who help me on different projects. And I just started to build this muscle of, okay, I wanted to research some things, and how am I going to read? Oh, yeah, maybe I can find someone who will be much better at the research, and even if I pay them $60 an hour, it's going to be way cheaper and way more professional if they did it, and they're going to do it quickly. I don't have to wait for me to have time. So this is a huge concept, and I think this book is going to be very successful.
Yeah, I think they've already sold over 100,000 copies in the short time it's been out. Yeah. It was interesting. I was kind of thinking of a metaphor for that. And one of my friends, he is like Tim, the Toolman Taylor. He has all of the construction tools, the saws and the hammers and all of the gadgets. And he's very knowledgeable of how to build a house and projects. Like he can put a deck on the back of his house, and he can build this and he can build this. And I see him all the time, and he's so busy with things around his house, because he's like, man, I could do it all. I have the tools, I know how to do it. And he doesn't have any free time because he's doing it all, right? And I look at him and like, I'll just hire that out, spend some more time with family. But now let me look inwardly. Am I running my business that way? Am I trying to do it all in my business? And he's probably looking at me saying, man, Alec, why don't you hire that out? You're having someone, and I've come a long way, but I've always, used to think, well, if it's going to get done, I got to do it. Right. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs run their businesses like my friend, the way he runs his house.
Yeah. It's, the first management blueprints, well before EOS Traction, was the E-Myth. 1976 when it first came out, or 80. No, it was 84, and then the E-Myth Revisited came out 10 years later. And Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth, he came up with this idea that most businesses are actually not started by entrepreneurs. That's the E-Myth. That's the entrepreneurial myth, that businesses are started by entrepreneurs. No, most businesses are started by technicians. So someone who is really good at their job, maybe they are an HR consultant, but they're really good. And our instinct is that we do it because we're good at it and we want to be the expert.
Right.
To make this mental shift that maybe we are the expert, but we're never going to build a company if we stay in our expert role, and we have to. That's the EOS concept, is to delegate and elevate. You have to elevate yourself to something that you're not good at yet, and get out of the comfort zone and learn that other stuff, which is higher value, and let other people do the lower value stuff and teach them to do it. It's a huge mindset shift, and it's tough. It's tough to do because you're good at something, and it's great to be a master of something. It's rewarding, and it kind of sucks to be a bad leader. But there's a big opportunity there.
And I think it's important that when you delegate, you let the person scrape their knees a little bit. As I had a boss that would say, like, it's okay to mess up and make mistakes, and you give them that grace and that opportunity. Now, if they've done it 10 times in their own poorly, that's another issue. But to give them their freedom, and that's hard for entrepreneurs to let go and to let someone fail. But they will be much more productive the second time they do that task, and then much more productive the third time. And eventually you can relax knowing that they're going to do a great job on it.
Yeah, I was just listening to yesterday to Beyond Entrepreneurship, and the new stuff that Jim Collins wrote in it. And one of the stories that he tells is that when he went to Stanford to become a professor there, and the dean of Stanford said that, okay, Mr. Collins, here's a department, here are all the resources, and go and do it. And he was like shocked, I got no guidance. They taking this huge risk that I just go out there and do it. And he figured it out. And then a couple of years later, he got an award for an exceptional achievement award or something like that. And he was sitting at the banquet next to the dean, and he asked him, hey, you really took a big chance on me, and you took a big risk. And then his response was that, well, actually, I didn't think of it as a risk. I thought of it as an opportunity. To because we knew that you're a talented guy, and if we give you the freedom to create something, then you might come up with something great. That's
really good.
Yeah.
What a great story.
Yeah. So that's really the empowerment piece is huge. And what I find with my EOS clients, many times the business owner who brings me in, they feel like they have this bunch of employees who don't really care, and they don't want to do, they just want to do a 9-to-5 job, and they have to pull through the motions and don't want to step up. And what often transpires in the focus day, the first day together, that there's so much pent-up energy that is waiting to be released. And as soon as they get the green light, people want to step up. They want to take on more. They want to take on more rocks that it's even humanly possible to do, because people are starved to be part of a big story and to have the chance to be successful.
Yeah.
So
that's very true.
Well, listen, Alec, I know that our time is coming to an end, and I'm sure you have a back-to-back meeting. So I really enjoyed our chat, and I think you've got a wealth of resources that my listeners would love to get deeper into. How can they find out more? How can they contact you? Give me some coordinates.
Sure. So our website is VisionSparkSearch.com. And my email is alec@visionspark.com. And there's a dash between Vision and Spark. So alec@vision-spark.com. And I'd love to, or they could reach out to me on LinkedIn. We have a great team that'll take care of them.
Okay, well, I'm sure you guys going to be in good hands. So check out Alec's LinkedIn page and website. He's got a great website. But as I was browsing through it, I thought, I have to copy some of these ideas to make my website more interactive. So definitely check out his website as well. So, hey, Alec, really enjoyed our chat. Thank you for coming on the show. And to my listeners, stay tuned. Next week, you'll have another exciting entrepreneur sharing some business framework ideas with you. Have a great day.
This was the ProfServ Traction Podcast with Steve Preda. To learn how your professional services or technology business could break through the ceiling with EOS, visit tractionequity.com.